Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Speakeasy. I'm your host, Sarath Nay, and every episode I bring a comic from all over the country and we talk about their comedy journey so far. And coming to the stage is all the way from Louisiana. Welcome, Wes. Hey, Wes, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being my guest today.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And so you're the host of No Show Comedy, Open the Mic podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on your website and on YouTube. And Omar was a guest of mine earlier in the whole stand-up speakeasy process. And how did you link up with Omar on the podcast?
So me and Omar, we actually started. Well, he started way before me, but when I started doing comedy out in Baton Rouge about 2 years ago, at this point, he was one of the people running the first open mic I went to, actually. So that was pretty cool. Um, yeah. So I mean, I met him there, kind of became friends over the years, and then right before the pandemic hit, we started the podcast. And,
Awesome. And it's such a
yeah.
great time to do podcasting because that was the same here. Like I couldn't go out and I wanted to talk to comedians again, and there's nothing like hanging out before and after the show with them and
Oh
performing with
yeah.
them in that, it's like, and so I missed it. So I'm like, all right, I got to do a plan B, talk to comedians all over the country because I've already interviewed all the comics in Florida where I'm at now. It's
Hmm.
like, what more? I want to break that glass ceiling and go all across the country with this. So far, so good.
Definitely, man. Now's a good time to be doing that too. You don't have to, because we were kind of talking about it a little bit on our podcast. Is now that since people are getting used to hearing a virtual podcast,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to kind of book guests from all around the world, and people are still kind of engaged despite the lower audio quality or whatever.
Indeed. And as long as you get the message out there, it's all good. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So what's how's the journey so far with the national comedy? I was really blown away by your website, and it was just like cool how like everything was forming in the beginning and all that good stuff. And what is your experience like with the whole no show comedy scene there in Louisiana?
It's awesome. So we have like plenty of not plenty, but we got a good bit of different people who produce comedy, and No Show's one of them. And so there's a big gang: Terrence, Omar, and Jeremiah. So they kind of brought it to like a real professional quality, I think, in Baton Rouge, like in particular, especially like with the podcast. I mean, the stuff we've done on this podcast actually feels solid and sustainable, as opposed to I had a podcast before that was, you know, just out of my spare room and just trying everything I could, but linking up with them really made it feel like a more professional podcast for sure.
Absolutely. And I listened to the one with JP Leonard, and he was my guest earlier too. And man, that man is awesome. You guys are awesome. It's just like, teamwork makes the dream work. And I see that like that just like shines through your website. It's just like, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, you can thank Jeremiah Turner for that. That guy and Omar, that they set up all the cool stuff. I'm the guy who just hops on and talks.
Awesome. Fantastic. And you're a piece of the puzzle. And it's like, it reminded me of the old African like proverb where it's like, you know, further alone and farther together or something like that. And it's just like, man, it's so true. And I'm like the lone wolf here, but I'm
Hmm.
like, I'll put everyone in like the whole wolf pack and Daytona Beach on the map and
Oh
all
yeah,
that good stuff. So, yeah, if you ever get the chance to perform in Daytona, you got to do it because, man, that audience is amazing. Like, they're just rad.
yeah. I mean, like that's kind of what I'm missing out on. When I started comedy, I probably got a year into it before I started. I don't know, making a name for myself, at least in the state. And then the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden, all those things I was planning on doing kind of fell through, and then got the podcast going, and that's doing great. So it feels good to just be at least doing something parallel with comedy.
Indeed, most definitely. I mean, it's just postponed, but the door will open again as soon as this pandemic is over. And
Oh yeah.
same thing, dude. I was like hoping to go on tour and interview comics like yourself and Omar and such. And that pandemic hit, and I was like, man, my second tour has to be postponed. But that first one, it was everything I ever wanted, and I just wanted to go and break more just like state lines and see where how far my comedy will take me. But
Yeah.
indeed. So, Wes, you've been performing stand up for 2 years now, and what inspired you to perform stand up comedy?
So I've always been a fan of comedy, but when I started like getting really into like comedy and more comedians, like when I started getting into more just enjoying listening to comedians, just about the comedian life, all that stuff. I was actually living in Ruston, Louisiana, which is pretty far north, uh, going to Louisiana Tech, and there just was not much for me to do up there, and that's where I started my first podcast because I wanted to start doing something adjacent to comedy, and so there just wasn't too much going up there. So I decided to move back home to Baton Rouge, where I live now, and yeah, I mean, when I first started doing comedy, it was at the City Bar on Third Street in downtown Baton Rouge, and that's when I met Omar and all them, and been doing it every week since.
Awesome, great stuff. And what was film like when you first performed stand up?
I did terrible. I was awful. I was one. I was one of the worst comedians up there. It was so bad. I mean, I made like the same mistakes a lot of people do when they start comedy. You expect, you know, I go up there thinking I had 15 minutes, and then they're like, "You get 5 minutes," and I'm like, "Oh, but I got 10 more." And they're like, "Nah, you got 5 minutes." and then I do every joke that I had written, and then I was sitting at 3 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, well." So it was just that normal learning curve that every comedian starts out with, but what carried me through, I got one laugh that whole time, and it was about how bad I was doing, and I got that one laugh, and I felt how the room felt when it laughed, and I was like, man, I got to keep doing this, get more laughs more often.
Indeed. Yeah, that first time for me was pretty scary too. Like it was like an all arts open mic, so it was mostly like music and just music. But I just did it in LA, and I was like, man, I was so nervous to change into my superhero alter ego, which is like a Wu-Tang superhero from top to bottom. And he goes, "Hey, we got more room on the show. Would you like to do 5 more minutes?" But I just changed into my regular civilian clothes, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm his manager, and I just threw him off. And he goes, "So you're pulling an Andy Kaufman on me, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm pulling an Andy Kaufman on you." So that was a fun time for sure.
Yeah.
And I got video of it, and I'm like, good lord. But I'm glad I like two of the jokes I kept, but I
Mhm.
morphed it and polished it, and it's
Well,
much better
that's
now.
kind of the cool thing. My first thing was another big like first comedian's mistake is you think everyone wants to hear a fucking story. Can I curse on this? My bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not.
You think
Yeah.
everybody wants to hear a story. So I was like, man, told this whole long story, and like I felt the story was good. And like to this day, I say 2 years later, probably 1 year of comedy later, it morphed it, got it where it needs to be, and now it's like one of my opening jokes. So
Absolutely, you got to get him, hit him hard in the beginning, and pow, and you got him on the hook. So it's
yeah, definitely.
fantastic. It's like Leatherface.
Hmm.
So, what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
uh, All time favorite comedy album is Dave Attell's "Skank for the Memories." That'd be like my number one choice. If I had to pick something to listen to every day, it'd be that, for sure. In terms of like specials out, always a big fan of Chappelle's stuff, but also I'd say my biggest influence would be like a Tom Segura. Like his first Netflix special, Completely Normal. That was the one that made me want to pursue comedy. And when
Mm,
I saw it when it first got on Netflix too. So
absolutely, I love David Tell. He was like the comics comic, is what I
oh,
hear everyone
he's
saying.
all time great. Uh, I also like man, I listen to if I can listen to two every day, it'd be his Skanks for the Memories and Gilbert Godfrey's
Oh, your mic turned off, Wes.
It does that on my podcast too.
Oh, for sure.
Every time I get into a whole sentence, it messes up. But yeah, Gilbert Godfrey's I forget the name of it, but it's the one with all his dirty jokes on it. I like that one too.
Indeed, I'll have to look that up because I'm the dirtiest. My friends called me the cleanest, dirtiest comic in Daytona Beach because I get
Really?
really dirty, but I don't say any curse words.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they called me the comics comic like David Tell too because that's why I love him. Because like even if the crowd's not laughing at my jokes, my pals that are stand up comedians will just laugh because they look at everyone's reactions because they know what's coming and they're just like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah,
They just go crazy.
there's a guy we do comedy with, and anytime I'm telling a new joke, I don't know if he laughs because no one else laughs or if he laughs because he thinks it's funny. But My guy Sam Williams. If you bomb on stage, you're just gonna hear his like cackling laugh. It's
Yep,
it's one of the best things. It keeps a crowd in it too, because it's like, all right, somebody's laughing, we'll stay listening. But
absolutely. Even if
gotta
it's
have
your,
those.
absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. It's just, man, you're there's some people that have like the best laughs and it's
Hmm.
loud, and like all of my comedian friends are that way with my dirty jokes, and I'm like, you guys are the best, like
Oh
for
yeah, I
saving
mean,
me from dying up here.
I mean, Sam's just got like this jolly laugh. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like if Santa Claus was laughing.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. And a couple of those people that you mentioned were on films and TV and such. And I want to know what your favorite sitcom sketches and comedy films are.
I'm a child of the early 2000s, so anything Judd Apatow did between '05 and '09, gonna go with those. I say Judd Apatow. I might mess up, but Superbad is my like go-to comedy movie. Um, One of the ones that I always found was underrated was This Is the End. That one, you remember that?
Yep.
I forget the name of the trilogy. It's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End again. Is that right? I don't remember, but the I can watch those three all the time. I love that the British style of comedy a lot, especially with sitcom.
Indeed. Favorites English sitcoms then?
Ooh, yeah, can't promise that one. I don't know any English sitcoms. It's what is it called? Is it Ladybug? What is it? It's that one on it's on Netflix or Amazon.
Oh, I couldn't help you. I have no streaming services at all. I'm just like, YouTube, I'm good with the free stuff.
Okay.
I'm very frugal, living below my means, all that stuff because of the pandemic. You never know, so it's like cut all my losses.
Oh yeah, I thought cutting cable was gonna be good, and then I subscribed to everything. So
Yeah, indeed. And our favorite American sitcoms.
man, I sound like a basic girl, but Office, Parks and Recs. Let me try and make a better one. Jeez. Yeah, no, I mean I frequent those two. If I go through a breakup, it's that '70s show. I don't know why I watch that after I go through a breakup, but if that happens, I just go through like all. I say the first 7 seasons because the last two of that '70s show sucked. But
Indeed, for sure. And favorite sketch shows.
um, Chappelle Show, 100%.
Absolutely. Like my favorite one was like that sketch where the when they were the race draft, and like the Asians got the Wu-Tang Clan. It's
Oh
just
my
like
god, yeah.
konnichiwa bitches. I love that stuff. I'm sorry I cursed, but I had to. It was just a fantastic sketch.
There's
Plus,
and like on that show, there's just so many like middle sketches that aren't like the most popular that you just watch and you're like, dang, this is better than anything SNL has put out in years.
yep.
And it's
And I
just like not the famous Chappelle Show sketch.
absolutely. And I still got my bonds diversified at Wu-Tang Financial, so it's fantastic.
Wu Tang Finance. I remember that. I think my favorite one of those sketches was I liked all the Tyrone Biggums ones,
Yeah.
but like the Fear Factor one was just so funny to me when he's just like Joe Rogan, you crazy. That me and my girl tell that to each other all the time.
Absolutely. Until this day, like we still think about it, and it's been so many years, and it's just like it's just a classic. It's like
Yeah,
even if it's two episodes with a third lost episode, season lost episodes, but still, it's just
and on those lost episodes, it's like hosted by Donnell Rawlings and Charlie Murphy. Like it, that's about as good as you can get if you're not getting Dave Chappelle. So I mean,
absolutely indeed. And if you can go on tour with any comics locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
locally, I love the No Show Crew. If I could rock out with Omar and Terrence all the time, I'd be doing that. Internationally, I would like to see the Dave Attell life on just like those club tour. Like, it would be cool, like big theaters with a big act, but like just there's something about that comedy club that I'm just itching to get to, because like we don't really have that here. We do the open mics with bars and stuff, and our book shows are all through like, you know, not comedy clubs. So I mean, I'd love to just be able to, go through comedy clubs with Dave Attell. If I'm doing international, I might want to go around with Daniel Sloss. That's an interesting guy. I like Daniel Sloss.
Absolutely. And man, hopefully touring opens up again because that'd be a fun tour to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And both of them, locally and the international ones. And so, Wes, if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would like to get roasted by?
Get roasted by. All right. Patrice O'Neill. Uh, Whitney Cummings. She's amazing on the roast. Um, Neil Brennan is pretty sly. Like he surprises you with how good he is at roasting. Um, Greg Giraldo, all time classic on the roast and stuff. Man, one more. Who would I pick? I'm gonna go with Nikki Glazer. She's pretty funny on the roast too. But there's so like I actually got into it recently. There's like the YouTube series that they did out of the comedy club, roast battles.
Mhm.
Like I watched through all of that, and then I got the Comedy Central app just to finish the ones that weren't on YouTube. And those roast battles are awesome. Oh, I
Absolutely.
guess I got to throw Jeff Ross in there too. I guess since he's the roast master general, he's got to be in there.
Indeed. Yeah, my very first comedy show ever was my roast, and it was my idea. And holy hell, they just got me good on that. It's an hour long, and I'll send you the video after this. And I
Oh yeah,
sing at the
definitely.
end, and it's just like, man, I'm a nice dude. And then like my inner demons came out at that when my drugs came out, and it was pretty awesome. So it's
Yeah, like when I think about myself getting roasted, you want to be like that, like when Donald Trump got roasted and just ate everything that came at him. But then in reality, you're like that Michael Scott, just like at the in the office, just getting absolutely like petrified. I
yeah.
really don't know how I would act on a roast. Like
Uh,
I'd like to see if I'm going against those people. I'm sure I'll feel pretty bad.
Indeed. When the jokes were hitting me, all I could do was just laugh and just like that's my only reaction. Like my emotion was just gone.
Yeah,
But then when you go up there and you tell everyone mean things in the beginning and then say nice things about him in the end, it just works out. So
yeah.
it's
But
fantastic.
like on this like celebrity one, especially like when you've become a celebrity and
Ah,
just the whole world knows about everything you've done and all the tabloid shit that comes out.
yeah.
It's just I couldn't imagine just professional comedians roasting on like the worst part about me. Like like getting told like about your looks, about your height, whatever, blah 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 blah. You can shuck that off, but like when they know something so horrible that you've done, it's I don't know how they do it.
Me
Like
neither. Indeed. And what do you see your comedy journey in the next 5 years?
5 years, I've always kind of been under the notion that if I can live my life doing comedy, that's the goal. Like nothing. I don't. Obviously strive for as much as you can, but my goal right now is to be able to live off comedy and comedy alone. Like that would be awesome. Big plans, moving out to different places and stuff like that. But I want to be able to just pay rent and do spots. Like that's what I want to do.
Man, that's my goal too. Like my next mission in life is to spend 4 months in different cities in the central time zone, like Chicago for 4 months, St. Louis for 4 months, New Orleans for 4 months, and then 4 months in Austin, and then move back home to Colorado, and I'll be
Mhm.
like, I'm set. Like I'll be good.
Exactly, man. Like,
So
and I feel like that's a lot of like comedy's weird in that respect because like you know people who get into music, it's there's no middle ground on that grind. When you're in music, at least I don't see it. But like in music, you see the people who do it because they love it, and then maybe it works out for them, and then they're a giant star. And like what kind of made me more comfortable with comedy? I'm not good at music, but what made me like more comfortable with my pursuit in comedy is knowing that there's those people who do clubs in Toledo and then go to another like small town and live off comedy, and that surprised me in the beginning. But like the first comedian I knew who did that was like Chad Daniels, which is another album I could listen to all the time, Footprints on the Moon. And like to know that he lives in some town in Minnesota and then just does tours to clubs and stuff like that, makes a good living, lives a good life. That shocked me and made me really want to pursue comedy.
Absolutely. You don't really have to move to LA or New York. I did that already, and I'm just like, I'm just happy being home with my pals and living the best life and
Oh
bringing them
yeah.
all up on with me. And I said, that's all I ever want now. So indeed. And so, which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
Man, I have not gotten into any other type of comedy. I like nothing. I've never done anything besides stand up and podcast. But I would like to start getting into improv just so I can, but that's just to improve my stand up. Like stand up is what I really love to do. And so that other stuff would be kind of more geared towards making me better at stand up comedy. Like I want to do improv so I get better at improvising on stage and stuff like that. But I want everything to funnel into making me a better stand up comedian.
Absolutely. And let's see here. Uh, what is your favorite joke a comic has written?
Um, Jeez. Let me give me a second here. Let's see. Uh it's a Gilbert Gottfried joke. Oh, it's about three people. I'll go ahead and tell the joke. It's a short joke. It's three businessmen go to a farm, ask the guy to stay in the farmhouse. The guy lets them stay in the farmhouse. They get a bed that's exactly three people wide. The the guy on the left had a dream that he was getting jerked off by this beautiful woman. This guy on the right was like, "Hey, I had the same exact dream. I was getting jerked off by a beautiful woman." And then the guy in the middle goes, "Oh, that's weird. I had a dream I was skiing." Like, I don't know why that would get. I love that joke.
Indeed, that's good stuff. I just watched on a based on an recommendation. I watched Richard Pryor's live in concert, and when his dad died in his stand up set, and when he was having sex, like it was like it's like that, but like without this whole skiing thing, and no one died in Gilbert's set, so it was good stuff. Awesome.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And so, what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
man. That's a funny white dude. That's what I want them. That's what I want them to think. Man. I don't know. I'm not a very profound comedian. It's a lot of dick jokes and fart jokes and all that shit. But it's all in fun. You know, I'm never been under the impression just I love all the comedy, and I don't like when people kind of don't like a brand of comedy. And I mean it's obviously subjective, but I can differentiate between you know a John Mulaney set, which is just so like precise and a story comes full circle, all that stuff, and you know a set from Joey Diaz. Like I can appreciate those two different levels of stand up comedian, and just they're both like masters at their class. So
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see here. And Wes, you were nominated to be my guest on the show, and it's a stand-up speakeasy, so it's like the Prohibition, the Roaring Twenties. It's like you got to know someone to know someone. So it's like the secret society of stand-up comics. So with that being
okay.
said, Wes, which comedians would you like to see on a future show? They can be based out of Louisiana and or wherever. As long as they're comedians, you can nominate them. Because I'm going cross country with this thing. So, which comics would you like to see on the future episodes?
Let me think. Joe Rogan, you got to get Joe. I'm just playing. Um, let's Mike. Mike
I
Honore.
wish I read.
Mike Honore, he's an awesome stand up. He just released an album. He's out of Baton Rouge, and Howard Hall. Those two are a good time for sure.
Awesome. I love Mike. He's I listened to his Splendid Afternoon album, and that
Yes.
Candyman joke gets me every single time. I'm like, good lord, this guy. I love Mike. He's fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's great. If you
Indeed.
wanna if you wanna get into depth about Baton Rouge though, just in particular, if you want to know about every block in Baton Rouge, I would get Will Merrill on the podcast. That guy is hilarious with just how far he can break down one small little city in Louisiana.
Awesome. Fantastic. And so I'll be sure to reach out to those folks, and I probably already did. So they should check their email or their filtered inboxes and reach back out to me and stuff if you're listening and watching out there. I would love to have those guys on as my guests. I've had Mike on my show already, but if you get the chance, you got
Okay,
to check out his episode. It's super dope. So he's awesome.
definitely.
Absolutely. But I'll reach out to the others that haven't been on the show yet. And Wes, please check out their podcast, No Show on Apple, Spotify. Go to their website, subscribe to their YouTube channel, and all that good stuff. And it's also in the description. We're in those other news channels. I just want to make it fancy because I'm a journalist. So with that being said, Wes, is there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
No, I'm good. We'd like to. I talked to Omar about it. We'd like to formally invite you on our podcast too, if you have some time. So we'll get that
I would
scheduled and stuff.
I would love that. Like,
All
you
right.
just tell me when, and I'll make that happen. So yeah, I would love to. I would be honored. I love you and Omar. You guys are fantastic and been fantastic guests. So
All
I would
right.
love to return that. Yeah, awesome, Wes. And so yeah, as soon as we get off the air, we'll schedule that and we'll make that happen and all that good stuff. And for everyone else watching at home, please subscribe and take care of each other and be well. And we'll see you after this on a future show. That'd be awesome. And we'll see you next time on the next Stand Up Speakeasy.